What was the worst punishment that you ever got? I mean, what was it? Losing the car privileges? Was it a whooping you got? Was it missing out on the biggest party of the year? What was the biggest punishment or most memorable punishment you ever got? Think about it. That's what we're talking about this last video of our series, Consequences That Work at Any Age. Here we go.
Yo, hello, Mr. Brown. Hello, Mr. Brown. Hello, Mr. Brown.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Brown, and I really don't remember the worst punishment I ever got. I'm trying to really think because most of the punishments I got when I was a kid. Because I learned quickly that I couldn't get away with nothing. Somehow my mama and my grandparents knew. They would look right through me and knew stuff that I would do. So I just stopped doing stuff. And actually, I kind of matured pretty early in some areas. And one area was obeying my parents. But what about you? Do you remember the punishment or the consequence that was the worst for you? And I think that's important when it comes to consequences that work or the type of consequences that work. They have to be memorable. We've talked about so far, and they need to be explained up front. Kids need to know what their expectations are because sometimes I believe, we don't believe it. Kids like to meet expectations. Number two, needs to be customized to that child. What makes them tick? What will they miss out on? And lastly, they need to be memorable, that they will remember what took place or what will happen if they cross the line. It needs to be something they will remember, something that will cause them some sense of loss or pain we mentioned before. And the purpose, again, is to break their spirit or break their will and not their spirit. What I mean by that is this, that you want to break that rebellious will to do their own thing, but not their spirit to live or to thrive or even to do things and make other mistakes in the future. You want to break that will that says, I want to do what I want to do. And the earlier you do that, the better. I think if you start explaining consequences even to a 1-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, you're going to be much better off because my son is 2.5 now. And we started early explaining things to him and he's picking them up. Even before he could talk and even before I knew, he started looking at me going, okay, he knew some things because we took time to explain them. And now he can talk back and we can have conversations. And I know how to customize those consequences for him and make them memorable. Now, because my kids don't like to sit out, don't like timeout. I use that often with them. And I remember my wife was telling me one day, she said, you know what they say, you're only supposed to give them a minute for every age they are. And I said to my wife, who is they? And so I give my kids timeout based on how they respond in the timeout. Because if they're doing that cry that is like not I'm in pain crying, but I'm mad at you crying, that one that's like really loud and making sure you hear them in the other room, I tell them a timeout timer does not start until it's quiet, until I hear no more noise. And then she said to me, because they say they'll forget why they're in timeout the younger they are. And so, because Evans too, if he's sitting in timeout for a while, I ask him, do you know why you're in timeout? And one time he said no. I explained to him why again. Okay, he sat in timeout a little bit longer. Came back, you know why you're in timeout?
Yes.
Why?
I hit Sophia.
You hit Sophia again?
No.
So I think it's important to make them memorable because when you look back and go, okay, if you have to have that discussion again, okay, I'm giving you another opportunity. And if this takes place, you break this rule again. Remember what happened last time? Do you want that again? Hopefully they will say no. They will remember the consequence. Therefore, they won't cross that line or be less tempted to cross that line again. Now, I think it's important when you have these consequences that once you dish out the consequence, you always have a conversation with them after because you want to make sure they understand that you love them, but their behavior is unacceptable. You don't want them to feel like you hate them or that you can't stand them. I often see parents look at kids with that look of, I hate you. And that is horrible because kids won't forget that either. Now, my grandparents, they were pros at giving that look that said, no, that's not acceptable. Now, we always knew they loved us, but we knew when that look came that, we knew what that meant. It never was I can't stand you. That we never got that. And I think it's so important that if you're going to choose to dish out some consequences, sometimes they need to be swift and hard and decisive, that they always know you love them, but that behavior is unacceptable because you love them. And so I think as you look at consequences, some of you are different ages. You have kids that are young like mine or old. I have a 24-year-old too. You got the span of kids, but some of you got those teenagers, junior high and teenagers that are pushing those buttons. They're pushing back all the time and testing those boundaries. You got to win and win decisively. But again, the more you explain to them why and you express that love for them, but you're firm on that consequence, I believe will go much better for you and ultimately for them, because it comes down to our choices. Because listen, I don't want us as parents to give into the short term and neglect the long-term need of our kids, the long-term need for them to understand there's consequences for their actions. So with that said, I would love to hear from you. If you got some feedback, please leave it. Visit our website, hellomrbrown.com, or visit us on Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. I think these videos will be on YouTube as well, but we'd love to hear from you if you got some comments. But again, consequences that work at any age. Number 1, explain the consequence. Number 2, customize. And number 3, memorable. Make them memorable, and hopefully this is memorable, and you will check us out at our website, hellomrbrown.com. Thanks for joining us, and choose well, because choices matter. No, I said it the other way. Choices matter, so choose well. Oh, yeah.